I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the plagiarism scandal involving a YouTuber known as James Somerton from last year. Basically, a YouTuber known as H-Bomber Guy put out a video talking about plagiarism, and one of their main targets for half of their video was James Somerton, who admittedly, before that video, I had never even heard of James Somerton before. But they had plagiarized a lot of people's content, and the internet was not too happy about it, including the people, obviously, that they had plagiarized from. They were not too thrilled. And so James Somerton kind of left the internet for a bit. Then they briefly came back to put out an apology video that wasn't great. That apology video wasn't well received. And as a result of that, they took that apology video down and they left the internet again. But it appears that they are back yet again. Oh, shit! Oh, shit. And this time with another, I guess you can call it, apology video. This one is titled A Measured Response, okay? A measured response. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at this. It's about 43 minutes long, so we'll probably be here a while. But let's go ahead and see what this measured response sounds like. We're already off to a good start. Content warning, discussion of self-harm from 2808 to 3004. So if discussions of self-harm bother you, keep that in mind. But let's just jump into it. Without further ado,
play that shit.
Here we go. Here we go, chat. This is gonna be something else.
Just a disclosure, this video is monetized, but revenue from it will be sent along to H-Bomber Guy's team to be dispersed to the people whose work I plagiarized. If his team won't accept it, I'll be making monthly donations to Wikipedia and Trans Lifeline going forward. You may have also noticed that a few of my past videos have gone up on the channel again, and revenue from those as well will also be sent along with the revenue from this video.
Okay, so they're basically going to try to give the people they stole from some money. I guess that's a good start so far. I wonder what videos have gone back up. Let me go ahead and take a look at that. So we have a decent amount of videos that have been put back on the channel. As I mentioned, you can see I haven't watched any of these because I never even knew James Somerton existed before the controversy. But yeah, we have a handful of videos that have been re-uploaded. Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Over the last couple of months, I've been getting in touch with the people who I plagiarized to apologize one-on-one instead of a mass apology. It's a bit difficult because many of them don't have public email addresses, so I'm still working on it, but it is a top priority of mine. I've heard back from a few of them, and they were actually incredibly nice.
It'll be interesting if we get some confirmation from any of them to see if like he actually did do this or if he's just saying he reached out to some people. Because unless he does it in a second or so, I don't think he mentions the people he reached out to. So I'd be interested to see if any of those people respond or not, or if he's just blowing smoke up our asses.
Accepting my apology and just imploring me to do better in the future. So I want to thank them publicly for that. There's plenty that I haven't heard back from, and I completely understand that. In many cases, I wouldn't want to talk to me either. I also want to apologize to my audience, though. You trusted me to be a good representative of the queer community, and I was not that. I tried to be. I tried to be a voice for every member of the queer community, but that was a failed endeavor before it even started. I'm a cis white gay man. No matter how much I try to be a good spokesperson, I can never really truly understand the life experiences of other far more put upon members of the queer community. This is one of the reasons that I would use their own words, but I should have made it very clear that that's what I was doing.
Okay, is it just me, or does that kind of sound like he's making an excuse for his theft? Like, I couldn't explain in my own words the way that these people feel, so rather than trying to, I'm just going to copy what they said. Like, that's kind of the vibe that I get here. One in the chat, if you guys agree that that's the vibe you guys are getting from that statement as well.
Never, ever thought that I was the only voice out there, as some have said, but being a cis white man, I thought I might be able to win over some people who wouldn't otherwise listen, unless it was someone who looks and sounds just like them. And so I tried speaking for everyone. And this was a horrible mistake. What I thought was being inclusive ended up leading to a lot of people feeling left out, and even
not only does this sound like an excuse for the plagiarism, but it also kind of sounds like a diversion away from like what they actually did, right? Because I mean, obviously this was one of the criticisms that they had, is that they didn't really show a lot of respect towards different members of the LGBTQ plus community, right? But that was like one of the smaller criticisms that people directed at them. The big bulk of the criticism they got was in relation to the fact that they were plagiarizing people, including plagiarizing other people in the LGBTQ plus community. So it kind of seems like a distraction away from the biggest criticism they got, which is plagiarism.
Offended. This fell upon Nick as well, as a non-binary person on the ace spectrum. They wanted to include asexuality and non-binary representation in our videos, but because Nick's experience is not universal, there is no universal experience, people felt that we were delegitimizing their own experiences because we focused on Nick's, and I apologize for that.
Okay. The last time we talked about this subject, we talked a lot about how they seemed to be propping up Nick, who was their editor, as like the fall guy for them. You know, Nick was the editor, so a lot of the plagiarism happened because of them, and, you know, this because of Nick, that because of Nick. Now, they wouldn't outright say this is Nick's fault, but they would kind of slyly word things in a way where it's implied that it's Nick's fault without outright saying it's Nick's fault.
Jacob
Thank you.
Kaiju donated $10. Already seen the apology video, and I think he should took little Joel's advice and just plagiarized Toxic Gossip Train and just left.
Thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. But my point is that it seemed like they were very sneakily insinuating before that Nick was the reason why, you know, these things happened, without outright saying it's Nick's fault. It kind of seems like they're doing that again. Like, oh, you know, we wanted to, in our content, represent, you know, these groups of LGBT folk. And because we basically focused a lot of our knowledge of that part of the LGBTQ community on, you know, Nick's experience, we didn't properly represent you. So again, it kind of seems like blaming Nick without outright saying this is Nick's fault, which is a really fucking shitty thing to do. So even after the poor reception of using Nick as a human shield before, they're still going to return to the well and use Nick as a human shield again. That's really shitty.
And I'm sure that Nick does as well. I'd also like to extend a personal apology to Jesse Earl, better known as Jesse Gender. Out of everyone that I spoke to who was also a YouTuber, Jesse was by far the kindest person. I think Jesse might be one of the kindest people I've ever met or ever encountered. We never actually met in person. Because of my hot-headedness, I drew her into just this anger spiral of mine that was unwarranted and absolutely ruined a possible friendship. Jessie was actually doing her best to...
I don't remember. What specifically did they do to Jesse Gender? I honestly don't recall. If somebody in chat could refresh my memory on that, I don't remember that aspect of it.
Kind of mitigate my frustration and everything and at that moment, and I just wasn't allowing her to do that, and I really, truly, honestly want to apologize to her for that. Again, if
Wendy Nerd in the chat says, also she's a woman, and we all know how much you hate those. Yeah, there was a lot of, in their content, a lot of disrespect targeted at women. Like, it really seems like James Somerton has a bit of a closeted sort of hatred towards women, or at the very least, they look down upon women, which is not good.
If you ever get the chance to speak with Jessie one-on-one, or if you have gotten the chance, you'll know just how nice she is and how kind. And I was a real asshole for...
Strolls in the chat says, Filthy Frank says it's time to stop.
It's time to stop!
I also see somebody in the chat saying there's too much cope. It really is. Like, we're only not even 5 minutes into this video, and it's already cope overload.
dragging her into my reactionary, unwarranted frustration. We haven't spoke since all of that happened. But Jessie, if you are watching this video, I do want you to know that I am honestly sorry for that. I hope, truly, honestly, I hope everything goes as well as possible for you, because you deserve all of it. There was a misunderstanding between Jessie and I after that happened that I do want to clear up, where someone who at least claimed to be a fan of Jessie's, did an internet and threatened to kill me, which is...
Wendy in the chat says, Jessie Gender called him out for claiming that Nebula didn't have queer content creators. When she corrected her on this, he sicked his followers on her. Yikes. Yeah, that's not great.
Is, being a person on the internet.
It's bad enough on the internet when... if you're a content creator who has a decent following, if you do a call out of a creator that's like a valid call out, it's bad enough that there will be bad actors in your community who will go on the attack against that person. Like, I've been very outspoken with my community that, yes, sometimes we cover people on my channel that I'm being critical of. And yes, I do go hard sometimes with my criticism, but under no circumstances whatsoever do I view that as a license for members of my audience to go and attack or harass people. Okay, I make that very clear. I've even gone on the record to say that if I find out a member of my community is using my videos as an excuse to harass people, they will be banned from my community. They will be banned from my Twitch chat, my YouTube chat. They'll be banned from my Discord server. Basically, anywhere that you can engage with my community, you will be banned if you use my content as an excuse to harass people. We don't tolerate that kind of shit. But anyway, I kind of went on about that to get to the point of, like, it's bad enough when you have bad actors in your community, when you criticize someone or you call someone out publicly, that they will use that as an excuse to harass someone. It's even more so, like, ridiculous and an abuse of your platform to intentionally send your audience to attack people. So if that's really what he did to Jessie Gender, that's unacceptable. That is an abuse of your platform.
Threats are unfortunately not uncommon. At the time, though, I was in a very panicked state, and so I did report it to the police. I did not report Jessie to the police, which is the misunderstanding that people came away with. I did not report Jessie to the police. I would have no reason to do that. And it did end up that this person had a prior record with the police of violent acts.
One of the things he does in this video is talk about how harassment and threats are bad, while neglecting to mention that he sent harassment campaigns against others. Gee, that's usually how it goes, right? They're perfectly fine. They're perfectly fine having, people in their audience attack other people on their behalf. But when they become the target of the harassment, then all of a sudden that shit's not okay anymore. It's pretty insane.
And they actually lived quite near me. So the police took it very seriously. They took it so seriously that they implored me not to speak to Jessie, which I took their advice on.
Markalicious in the chat says, I feel like streamers need to be aware of the parasocial component of their audience and work to curb it and demotivate a tipster. I agree. I think that while I don't think that a content creator is 100% responsible for everything people in their audience do, I think that a content creator at least needs to make a good faith effort to curb that kind of behavior within their community. So, like I said, I've gone on record numerous times with my audience to say that I don't approve of my community harassing people. And I've gone on record to say that if I find out a member of my community is harassing someone that I cover in my content, I will absolutely 100% ban them from my community. So I actually do agree. While I don't think that content creators would 100% responsible for everything someone in their community does or like someone in their audience does, I do think that creators should at least make a good faith effort to prevent that sort of thing.
Which I shouldn't have, honestly. I should have at least clarified to Jessie what was going on and not just left her hanging. And so I want to, again, apologize to Jessie for that. But in that state, I listened to the police, which is, maybe not the best decision all the time because the cops don't usually have the best interests of people at heart. So, Jessie, I want to apologize for that and everything else that happened. Completely understand why you would not want to speak to me ever again, but I just want you to know that I am sorry. But now back on the original topic, the work Nick and I were doing on the channel, we wanted it to be, for everyone. We wanted it to be a channel where every queer person could feel welcomed, and we failed at that. That is something that in hindsight, I think is impossible to create, and that's why it's important.
Again, I really feel like as much as he's going on about this point, which was one of the minor criticisms that people had directed at him, I really feel like this is meant to distract away from the actual criticism, the bulk of the criticism they were getting, which is that they plagiarized. They literally stole other people's content, but not just stole other people's content, stole content from other members of the LGBTQ community who they claimed that they were representing within their content, right? It's like really scummy. We're going to represent you by stealing from you.
For there to be many different queer voices in spaces like YouTube, and there are. What's more important is that those voices are discoverable, which is something that I should have been helping with. I often shared other queer creators on Twitter, but this was when I only had, 800, 1,000 Twitter followers, and these creators usually had a whole lot more than that. It was a weird thing because usually they would have infinitely more Twitter followers, but a whole lot less YouTube subscribers. I'm not sure what created that dichotomy, but something was...
What does this have to... Was this part of the criticism that they got? Like, I don't... Correct me if I'm wrong, because, it has been a while since this story initially broke. What was it, like October or November or something like that? But, like, was this a big criticism that they got, that they didn't signal boost other LGBT voices? I don't remember that. Again, it feels like more distracting from the actual issue. What's so funny about what he says about his supposed advocacy on Twitter is that H-Bomb did a better showcase of queer creators in his video. They never mention anyone in his videos. Yeah, pretty much. Jeez.
Definitely off with the algorithm there. There is a part of my brain that says YouTube kind of went, oh, white male queer, let's push him. And... ignore everyone else in the community, whereas people were able to actually discover other queer creators on Twitter and then make their way to YouTube. But the YouTube algorithm that's the most negative interpretation I have of it, which unfortunately may be true. In any case, I should have done more to share the voices of other queer people, certainly the people whose works I used, both credited and plagiarized.
Samantha L says he's minimalizing what he did from outright stealing to I didn't signal boost hard enough. Yeah, it does kind of come off that way. Is he blaming the algo? Well, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of this by seeing other creators react to it. And based on what I've seen so far, there's a whole lot of making excuses for what happened. So get used to that. There's going to be a lot of that.
In my videos, but also just other creators on YouTube. It's important for us as a community, as vaguely defined as we are, to support each other. And I didn't do that nearly enough. From day one, I was very taken in by the idea.
Victor says he keeps doing this weird id poll argument that legitimately pisses me off. This is why I don't... Here's the thing, right? When it comes to id poll or identity politics, there are times when it's appropriate to refer to identity politics, when you're referring to like legitimate forms of like discrimination against, you know, different races of people or different genders of people or, you know, different sexualities, whatever the case may be, right? There are definitely circumstances where discussing idpol are correct. But I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of times, especially on social media, idpol is often used as a way to kind of shield yourself against actual criticism that's meant to be used, meant to be targeted towards you, or it's meant to be used as a shield to sort of basically not take accountability for things that you should probably be taking accountability for. So it gets a little bit dicey. I feel like oftentimes people do abuse idpol as a way to deflect criticism away from themselves. Again, I don't necessarily think that, you know, idpol, there aren't appropriate uses for that, but I do think it's often misused as a way to kind of deflect away criticism.
Idea of being a YouTuber. As soon as my videos started to get recommended by the algorithm after not releasing a new video for like 2 years, I felt like I had a short period of time to get the next videos out as soon as possible, which is why so little work was put into the writing of them and so much was taken from other places, plagiarized. Early on, I thought...
Yeah, that's such a BS excuse. Okay, so what he's saying is he went through like a pretty long period of time of not uploading new videos. And so his channel started getting recommended in the algorithm. You know, he was getting an influx of views because of that. And as a result of that, he decided to capitalize on, you know, the push that his channel got, which, you know, a lot of creators will experience that, right? Maybe a creator doesn't get a whole lot of views on their videos, so they don't upload super consistently, or maybe, you know, they do upload consistently, but they don't see a whole lot of traction. And then boom, one of their videos pop off, or some of their videos pop off, or the algorithm just shows them favor for whatever reason, and then they boost their output to try and capitalize on that. This is a very real thing, okay? It's not very often that, you know, a channel that doesn't get a lot of traction, the algorithm will just push you hard, and so it's not an uncommon thing for creators to capitalize on that. Having said that, that is not a valid excuse to steal other people's shit. I'm sorry, it's just not. Oh, you know, the algorithm's showing me favor, so I need to capitalize on this growth so I can grow even more. Now I'm just going to steal people's shit. No, I'm sorry. That's not a good excuse.
Crediting authors in the opening credits alone was enough, especially since the videos weren't monetized early on. But I understand now, especially after speaking with some of the people who I did plagiarize, that was just... I was wrong. That was not the way to go about it. They should have been cited properly.
I doubt he only now knows that what he was doing was wrong. Okay? When you're doing video essays, which is essentially the kind of content he did video essays, you know that stealing from people is wrong. I mean, that's something that, like, you learn that in, like, elementary school or middle school. Plagiarism bad. Don't do plagiarism. Like, I remember when I was in, and we probably discussed it earlier in school, but like my earliest memory of the discussion of plagiarism was in 4th grade in elementary school. Our teacher had us write our own like novels. We called them novels, but I mean, it was not even remotely long enough to be a novel. But basically he gave us like those little like personal journals and said, hey, write your own book in this journal. And we talked about plagiarism as part of that project. Do not copy somebody else's story or somebody else's work. You got to do your own original story, right? And so we wrote these things, and I remember that discussion of plagiarism. That was 4th fucking grade. Okay? I'm sorry. I don't buy this bullshit of, oh, now I know it's bad to plagiarize. You fucking knew. Even when you look at the examples of them trying to hide their plagiarism by rearranging some of the sentences or changing some of the words that were used, like the little things they did to try and hide the plagiarism, you fucking knew. This is bullshit. This is, you know what this is? This is a cope.
You are coping.
There's no way, there's no fucking way that you didn't know that what you were doing was wrong. Because if you didn't know it was wrong, you wouldn't have taken steps to try and hide it. You are lying right now. You are outright fucking lying.
Coping so hard.
What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
That's such a lie.
Within the text of the video.
Oh, I wanted to run this part back a little bit, real quick. I think he started something that I wanted to comment on.
About it. They should have been cited properly.
Hold on. Let's run it back a little bit more.
I did plagiarize. That was just... I was wrong. That was not the way to go about it. They should have been cited properly.
No. You still don't get it. This isn't just about not properly citing people. This isn't about giving them proper credit for the work that you fucking stole. It's about stealing, period. You stole. Okay, you didn't just cite someone's work. It's not like, you know, when you see a journalist write an article, right? And they write the article in their own words, but they got their source from someone else. So they'll put a link to their source where they got the information from. But all the writing part is their own, okay? This isn't you not citing your sources. This is theft. You copy and pasted their words into your script and treated them as your fucking own. This isn't about citing your sources. They still don't get it. They still don't get it.
Within the text of the video.
Either they still don't get it, or they just either they still don't get it, or they're just being dishonest. And I got to be honest, I'm inclined to believe they're just being dishonest.
What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
This is insane.
At least once verbally, as well as, you know, having citations on screen. If there were a whole lot of them, like with, you know, one of the examples that H Bomber Guy used in his video was the Deep Cuts video. There were a whole...
This is not about citation. Does anybody have chat? Can somebody in chat get me the timestamp where there's a part of H Bomber Guy's video where he shows the script on the screen and he highlights all the stolen bits? Can somebody get me the timestamp to that so that I can show that? Because this is not just about citing. It's about outright fucking stealing. Can somebody get me the timestamp for that, please? Thank you.
A lot of people who I, you know, credited in the opening credits, but really it's plagiarism. They should have been cited on screen with actual citations. You know, links where you can find this stuff. Maybe
this isn't just about citing. Oh.
Been a bibliography that you could have gone to, like on a Google Drive or something like that. Because, you know, although I might have stated that the scripts were based upon the work of these authors, it in many cases wasn't just based on their work. It was their work. Word for word. In some cases, I did get permission, like with the Evil Queens Disney video. I'll put the email up on the screen that I got from Sean Griffin.
Okay, I've heard from someone that this was not like an email that was sent before the video went out, that this was sent after the video went out. Let's read the email. So this is Sean Griffin, Tinkerbell's and Evil Queen's video essay by James Somerton. Hi, James. I did get a chance to watch your video. While I am perhaps not as pessimistic about the relationship between Disney and the LGBTQ culture as you... your piece is, I recognize and largely agree with the issues you are raising about where things have gone since I wrote my book, and I'm grateful for the shout out in the title card. It was one thing that I was going to request that you give me at least one bit of citation. It's a very thoughtful video, and I hope your audience gets a lot out of it. All the best, Sean. I've heard some say that this email was sent after the video actually went live. So this wasn't a case of getting permission. This was a case of begging for forgiveness. Oh shit! Oh shit! They're being blatantly dishonest here. Anyway.
Where he did give me permission to publish the video. I sent the finished video to him. And he watched it and he gave me...
Okay, so the timestamp for that moment I asked for is apparently 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 2 seconds. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and find that real quick, because you have to see this. Yeah, it's so much more damning when you see this, like the script with all the highlights for the parts that were stolen. Let me see here. So what was the timestamp? 2:23:02. 2:23:02. Right about Okay, I gotta run it back just a little bit. Right here. Look at this shit. Look at all the stolen shit. And keep in mind, as H Bomber Guy pointed out when he originally put out the video, these are just the instances of plagiarism he was able to find. And this is one video, chat.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
One fucking video. Look at all these people that got plagiarized because they color coded it. Look at all these people that got plagiarized and the massive blocks of fucking text. There's 3 full pages were stolen from one person. One fucking person. So this, again, this is not just about citation. You copy and pasted someone's homework. You know what's really funny is, like, you always hear the meme about, hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change it enough so it isn't obvious. You didn't even try. You didn't even try and not make it obvious. Holy shit. And they're still going on about, oh, I didn't cite them enough. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Permission. But in most cases, I didn't get permission and thought that just putting the author's name in the opening credits was enough. I was much more interested in the production of the videos than the writing of them at this point.
Oh, so you just wanted to make your videos look pretty, but you didn't actually care about writing your own work. Okay.
Point. So after 3 or 4 videos, I brought Nick on as a main writer for the channel. The idea is that they would write the vast majority of the scripts. I would film, voice, and edit the video.
So let's throw Nick under the bus again. Got it.
And we'd split the money that came in. We were
They want to blame Nick without blaming, like, without outright saying it. That they really want to do that so bad.
At the time, and Nick didn't have a job, so I figured it would help both of us. This is actually when we had some of our biggest videos, like the ones talking about Wiccan and Hulkling, where we lucked out because it came out right in time for WandaVision to hit. And then the Killing Stalking video, which became our biggest video by far. The Sadism of Class was another one. These videos weren't plagiarized, and we loved making them. It didn't take long for the channel income.
They weren't plagiarized as far as we know yet. As far as we know.
To start growing. Lucky timing, really, because this was around the same time that I was laid off, since the company that I was working for downsized once COVID hit its 2nd year. Nick and I had both grown up poor, so we started doing what we could to try and stabilize our income as much as possible. This meant putting out more videos, which meant I had to take over more of the writing duties. But since filming, editing, usually doing multiple edits because of YouTube.
Oh, okay. So they're saying that's the reason why the other videos weren't plagiarized, because Nick wrote them. So they're like, okay, this is why there's plagiarism in the later videos, because I was doing some of the writing, and that's where the plagiarism comes in.
Copyright issues, as well as managing the channel and dealing with my mom's recent cancer diagnosis. All of that was already taking up so much of my time and attention. This led to a lot of copy and pasting blocks of text into scripts. My intention at the time was to use these as a jumping off point once Nick and I sat down to edit the script, because that's what
Wendy said, did you all see the tweet where he photoshopped the fuck out of stills from his videos and posted them to Twitter? All see, I can light a shot, and he photoshopped himself hardcore. I didn't, I think I might have heard somebody else reference that, but I didn't see that myself. But that's really fucking funny if true.
What we would do, I would sort of put in my parts, Nick would put in his parts, and then we would sit down at a table, read through the whole script, and kind of try and make it seem cohesive. But, and here's something I'm sure a lot of people will call a bullshit excuse. I have memory issues because of a head injury from when I was a child. They're actually getting worse. I've talked about it on stream.
Come on, no. He's right. There are people who are going to call this bullshit because it sounds like fucking bullshit.
And in videos. So yes, it is real, but some people will call it a bullshit excuse anyway. The head injury is actually what led to me having epilepsy, which is why I can't work in any job that involves physical labor. Employers can't get insurance for me to like lift things or operate vehicles and stuff like that. I actually did marketing for a restaurant group for a little while, but got let go when they found out that I was epileptic because, at least according to them, I couldn't be insured to be in the kitchens where I need.
That doesn't. So I'm speaking from, the experience of people I'm friends with right now. I have a couple friends actually who suffer with epilepsy, some friends from high school or whatever, and they have jobs and they work just fine. I'm sure that there are some jobs that you can't work with epilepsy because it would be dangerous, to be doing those particular types of, roles in the workforce while experiencing a seizure. I'm sure there are some positions, but he's making it seem like people with epilepsy can't work at all, and that's not true. There are plenty of people in the workforce who have jobs and live perfectly normal lives with epilepsy. So like I don't buy this.
Needed to be to film videos and take photos and stuff like that. But anyway, when it came to editing the scripts, I couldn't remember what I'd written and what had been.
So according to the blue guy in the chat says, "Oh my God, please don't use epilepsy as an excuse. I have a fine job." So according to blue guy, like it seems like they have epilepsy and they work. So what? This is like when you see somebody, like they get called out for some really fucked up shit and their response is, you have to forgive me, I have autism. And it's like, no, like autism doesn't make you commit heinous acts against people, okay? Like there's some issues with, picking up on social cues and stuff like that, but it's not going to make you like physically assault someone or something like that, like really fucking insane. You have to take accountability for your own shit. You can't just blame it on autism or in this case, epilepsy.
Copy pasted. We should have just chucked out everything that I had put into the script and filled them in with wholly original thoughts. Or I should have been taking notes on where things came from so that we could at least cite them.
So the excuse is I was just putting the stolen text in the script as like a placeholder and I was going to go back and fix it later, but I forgot.
You are coping and seething. You just can't.
He doesn't actually expect us to believe that shit, does he? Does he actually expect us to believe that fucking shit? Come on.
Coping so hard.
What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
This is so bizarre.
Nobody believes that shit.
In the videos, if nothing else, but I never did that. According to my therapist, my not thinking to do.
You don't do that. When you're writing a script, you don't fucking do that, all right? You might use some like source material to inspire the text that you're writing or like use it to source the ideas that you're writing, but when you're writing a script, you don't copy blocks of text into your script and then go back and fix it later. You type your own shit in there. What the fuck?
That probably stems from my recently diagnosed ADHD, but I don't know if I'm willing.
Now he's blaming it on... Wait, is he blaming it on... Maybe I didn't hear that right. Is he blaming it on ADHD now?
Where things came from so that we could at least cite them in the videos, if nothing else, but I never did that. According to my therapist, my not thinking to do that probably stems from my recently diagnosed ADHD, but I don't know.
Okay, that one pisses me off. As someone who has ADHD, that one really fucking pisses me off now. So his excuse is, well, time crunch, well, copying as placeholder text, well, my forgetfulness, my, epilepsy, my ADHD. Fuck you!
I fucking hate everyone.
You know what? After that, I need a fucking retard break.
Hold on, retard break. I need a retard break. Give me a retard break for like 2 fucking minutes, okay? I can't keep listening to fucking retards.
If I'm willing to say that, really. Maybe it was, or maybe it was just plain laziness. Maybe I thought that this was somewhere that I could cut a corner because I was torn in so many other directions. Honestly, I can't remember, like I said. Memory.
This is literally just excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. I can keep going. Like, this whole video is just like a half-assed fucking apology right at the beginning, and then let me fill you up with a bunch of excuses. Okay, you know, James Somerton, okay, if you happen to go round 3 for this shit because round 1 and 2 didn't go so well, let me explain to you how an apology works. A better apology would be something along the lines of, yeah, you know what? I stole other people's work, and, you know, I'm sorry for that. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to do the best I can to make it right with those people. I'm going to try to, you know, reach out to those people and see if I can give them a portion of the revenue that I made off the videos. And, you know, I'm going to do better to not, like, plagiarize stuff again in the future. I'm really sorry that I let you guys down, and I hope I can gain your trust again moving forward. That's it. Okay? You don't need to, like, give us backstory of this is why this happened and this is why that happened and, you know, this, that, and the other thing. It's just apologize, say you fucked up, do what you have to do to make it right, and promise people that you won't do it again. It's that fucking simple. You know how they say, like, if somebody's, like, over-explaining something, it's obvious that they're lying? Like, if somebody says, you know, let's say somebody is, like, a suspect in a crime, okay? And somebody says, you know, where were you on the night of this particular incident? And, like, you know, somebody might say, oh, you know, I was at home, just, you know, relaxing. You know, very simple, straightforward response. You're less likely to suspect a person that they're lying to you about that if it's just, oh yeah, I was just home relaxing for the night, you know? But then when it's like, you know, I was relaxing for the night. I had, you know, driven home on the way home from work. I grabbed some, like, Burger King on the way home. I got myself a double Whopper with cheese. And then, you know, when I got home, I had my meal, and, you know, I played a little bit of video games. I decided to fire up some Breath of the Wild on my Nintendo Switch. And, you know, when you're giving too many fucking details, it starts to feel like you're trying to fill out all these details to convince the person that you're not lying without realizing you're making it obvious that you're fucking lying, right? This is like a common thing. And I feel like that's what this is. Let me over-explain what happened to you in hopes that you'll believe the bullshit I'm fucking selling. Let me tell you, my guy, nobody's buying this shit. No one.
I fucking hate everyone.
Let's continue.
But yes, we should have just thrown out my contributions to the scripts and filled them in with original writing. But we felt like we had too much of a time crunch. We felt like we had to get videos out more often to feed the algorithm. And then my mom died. And I became completely useless.
I mean, that's not exactly like, okay, so there is some truth that the algorithm does require some consistency. Okay, that the algorithm does require some consistency. So just to give you an example, if you're somebody who's a...
Thanks for the money, you fucking simp.
Thank you.
Jacob Kaiju donated $5. Next time, James will blame it all on the rain.
Oh my God. Or maybe he'll blame it on the alcohol.
Thanks for the money, you fucking simp.
Wendy now donated $2. Next time, James will blame it on the boogie.
Thank you very much for the super chat. I do appreciate it. What was I going to say now? I totally fucking lost it. Fucking hell. Well, if it comes back to me, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, this is a really, really bad response. This is a really, really fucking bad response.
I couldn't think straight at all. So Nick had to completely take over writing duties.
Oh, I was talking about the algorithm and consistency. It is true that the YouTube algorithm requires consistency in order to keep you in the algorithm. So as an example, let's say you're someone who's a weekly uploader. The algorithm does like you to keep that level of consistency. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but for the most part, if you're a weekly uploader, you want to upload weekly to keep that consistency. But we're talking about somebody who did like video essays. It's not uncommon for video essayists to upload sometimes only like 1 or 2 videos a year. Okay, so like if you needed some gaps in between uploads so you can get it right, maybe take a little bit more time with your script or whatever, like the algorithm's not going to insanely penalize someone who does video essays for something like that. I mean, there was nothing forcing you to have such a massive time crunch that you had to basically get things done in time by stealing other people's shit. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. I've been doing YouTube since 2006. Like, I know a little bit about the algorithm, and like nobody's forcing you to steal other people's shit to satisfy the algorithm. I'm sorry, that's a bullshit excuse.
Well, I dealt with things you deal with after a person dies. My dad, you see, he can't read or write. He was very poor when he was a kid. So he had to leave school really young to work in order to feed his many brothers and sisters. So I had to deal with all the legal stuff after my mom died, as well as making sure that all my dad's bills were paid and whatnot, especially after his income was basically cut in half. There was supposed to be a buffer here, money-wise, as my mom had a life insurance policy that was going to be split between my dad and myself. But the insurance company, RBC Insurance, so if you have insurance with them, maybe rethink that, refused to pay
I will say this, okay? I've learned some really fucked up shit about life insurance policies as of late through someone who is a relative of mine. I won't get into specifics because obviously it's nobody's business. But there was somebody who's a relative of mine who signed up for a life insurance policy many years ago. And they basically got the life insurance policy through their employer. Basically, some contractor showed up and said, hey, you know, we want to show your employees our life insurance policy and then give them the option to sign up for it with us and all that jazz, right? And it's one of those things where they get you to sign up for a shitty plan, but they don't tell you the parts about the plan that are shitty, so that years later, when it's getting closer to that point where you might have to actually think about who's going to be receiving that money when you're gone and stuff like that, then you find out all the really bad shit, like the fact that, oh, once you've reached a certain age, all that money that you put into this life insurance plan for your loved ones, it's null and void. Like, your plan only lasts so far, and if you basically outlive that age, then your contract's null and void, and we just took all your money. Or like some life insurance plans will allow you to cash out. So if you decide for whatever reason, one reason or another, maybe you can't afford to pay it anymore or something, you decide to cash it out and say, hey, I can't afford to keep this, but let me cash out whatever cash value it has. Some policies won't allow you to do that. So if for one reason or another, you have to cancel your plan, all that money you spent all those years putting into it is just gone. Life insurance, let's put it, okay. It is important to look into life insurance. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of that. That's a very important thing to have for your loved ones after you're gone. But make sure you read the fine print and ask lots of questions before you sign that dotted line, because you could get fucked so hard if you're not careful. I have a loved one who had to learn this the hard way recently, and they are freaking the fuck out about it because they have given this company for the past, I want to say it was like decade and a half, 2 decades, thousands of dollars, and they might not, their loved ones might not ever see that money. It's insane. Anyway, that was kind of a side tangent, but let's continue.
Out the policy because my mother never mentioned that she had family with diabetes. She didn't have diabetes, but because she didn't think to mention that she had family with diabetes, it apparently voided the policy. All they did was refund a year's worth of premiums that she'd paid, even though she'd been paying them for about 15 years.
I'll give him some charitability based on what I just found out and what I just shared with you guys, that he might be telling the truth here. My only question is, what does any of that have to do with what he did? Other than, you know, the stress of, you know, losing a loved one. Doesn't give you a good excuse for stealing other people's shit. But what does this have to do with anything?
One of the things, the main thing, really, that I was supposed to do
like, is this just like feel bad for me sympathy bait? Is that why he mentions all of this? I don't really understand what the relevance is for this.
my portion of the insurance money was I was supposed to make a movie. These were direct instructions from my mom herself. She'd been...
Oh, so some of the money he was going to inherit through that policy. Some of the money is, oh, Tipster, he blames the Telos disaster on the life oh. Okay. I see where this is going now. Okay.
Very much behind me when I decided, when I was about 10, that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And she wanted me to finally have the opportunity to do that, even if she never got to see it. So when the life insurance went bust, I decided to try and crowdfund it, at least enough to make a short film or two. This is what Telos grew out of. So, what happened with Telos? Let me break down the timeline. When we launched the campaign in February of 2022, we hoped to raise $3,000 to produce a short film that we hoped that we would then use as a sort of proof of concept to attract investors, either private, public, or through Canada's telefilm program, to produce a feature. Some people online have stated that $3,000 never would have covered the cost of a short film, but these were not going to be unionized movies, and we were very clear about that up front. We wanted to be able to pay actors as best that we could, but we never expected to be able to reach typical union wages. The crew was going to be made up of people that I had gone to film school with. Everyone, including Nick and myself, we were roommates at the time living on the East Coast, were more than happy to work behind the scenes for free. We planned on writing a movie with a small cast and only 1 or 2 locations, ideally ones that we could get access to for free. Again, we assumed all of the money would go to the actors. We kind of looked at this as a sort of community theater troupe, but for filmmaking. After the campaign launched, it did infinitely better than we could have expected, and our ambitions grew. We started planning to make a feature instead of a short film, and the plan was to take this around to film festivals.
This is a common problem I see with a lot of like Kickstarter campaigns or other crowdfunding campaigns, is they have very modest goals to begin with. And because they, get more money than they expected, then they get too ambitious. Like, I understand the concept of like, hey, we got more money that we can work with. That's cool. So let's kind of like increase the, the budget behind the project we're planning so we can, improve the quality and the production value a little bit more. Like, that's fine. But when you get too ambitious to the point where it's like, okay, now you're not doing anything because you got a little too ambitious, that becomes a problem, right? And I think that like he should have stuck to the whole, let's make the short film to attract investors sort of goal, but now we can afford to pay our actors more, or now we can buy better equipment for our short film and better lighting, and put that money towards making a better short film to attract investors. That's where it should have stayed. When you get too over ambitious, then that's when you see a lot of Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns result in nothing actually being created.
The feature we settled on, entitled Final Girl, was about the lone survivor of a slasher movie type massacre 10 years after the fact, as she was publishing a book about her ordeal, drawing attention from people online convinced that she had actually been the killer all along. In the end, we would find out that the killer was the boyfriend of the girl who the main character had secretly been dating at the time of the killings. And most of the people he killed were, in his eyes, collateral damage as he made his way to our main character, because he was not happy that his girlfriend was cheating on him with a girl. And to those who say that I plagiarized the plot from the novel Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, read the book. It's nothing like the plot of the movie. And the final girl is a trope in horror movies. So if using the final girl trope is plagiarism, then basically everyone who's made a slasher movie since Texas Chainsaw Massacre owes the Toby Hooper estate some money. But anyway, Nick...
I've never read the book that he's referring to, so I don't know if he's being honest here about this not being plagiarism. So I can't comment too much about that. Maybe someone in the chat can chime in.
I planned out the movie, but I didn't want to start writing it until the campaign ended and the money was actually deposited. After the insurance debacle, I didn't want to count our chickens before they...
Dan Olson from Folding Ideas literally warned him about this, and James is still snarking on the man in this video before going on to accidentally admit he's right. Jeez. Except we have no idea if he's telling the truth about what was in the script. Yeah, I mean, that's true as well. You know, he could be telling us, you know, a story that the script was about that isn't true to what the script actually was about. We don't know that for sure, but I don't think it's worth speculating, to be honest.
They hatched. When the money was officially deposited, I immediately began work on the screenplay. I finished it that summer, soon after Nick had left to spend 2 months at home in Ottawa, Ontario with family. I sent the script to him to read right away because I was very proud of it, but Nick didn't want to share his opinion on it until he got back to the East Coast. So in the meantime, I put out a preliminary casting call on local job boards. When Nick got back, he believed that the script needed a page 1 rework. This is also when he told me that he'd be moving back to Ontario permanently soon, as he wanted to live closer to family and live in a bigger city with more opportunities. This was a punch to the gut for me. We had been living together since 2015 and had become quite dependent on each other. I felt like there was no way that I could make...
Or he says blaming Nick again. Yeah, it all circles back to Nick. Let me give you a bunch of details that don't fucking matter. Let me over-explain things to convince you that I'm not lying. And also, here's Nick. That's their whole game plan during this whole thing, right?
This movie without him. And since I had received not that many replies to the initial casting call, I took this as a sign that Ontario would be a better...
Doodlecast says, as far as I know, the final girl is a major trope. Oh, yeah, absolutely. As somebody who is a pretty big fan of, like, old slasher films, like, this is true. Final girl is, like, a major trope. That wasn't what I was referring to, though. I was referring to whether or not the story he was referencing, the book that he was referencing, whether it was plagiarized or not. How confident you have to be in order to be smug in an apology. Yeah, true.
Place to launch Telos, even though all my professional film connections were on the East Coast. That was a mistake. There, I had free access to the campground that would serve as the setting for a good portion of the movie, as well as easy access to any number of houses, apartments, and even offices that friends of friends would let me use to shoot. In Ontario, I had none of that, which immediately put the brakes on Final Girl, since there was no conceivable way of filming it, at least not within the budget that we had. After Nick and I moved to the Toronto area, he decided that he actually wanted to move home to Ottawa, to the Ottawa area, about 5 hours away, at least for a little while. In the meantime, he would take a train to the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, once a month, to work on YouTube videos for a few days and then head back.
See, this is exactly what I said before. Like, none of this, if you're responding to allegations of plagiarism, as well as the other things that they were accused of, like, you just address those things, you apologize where it's necessary, do whatever you got to do to make it right, and then say you'll do better in the future. Like, there's no need to explain all this shit. This is literally just excuses on top of excuses on top of excuses, and more than likely a shit ton of lies with over-explanation to make you believe him that's not working.
This went on for a little less than a year. So I began brainstorming new movies.
None of this matters. None of this needs to be in an apology video. Literally none of it.
That we could film in Ontario. This is where the multiple posters and teaser trailers came from.
If your apology video is more than a few minutes wrong, you already fucked up. Okay, you already fucked up. Okay, if your goal is to apologize and make things right, your video shouldn't be more than, I don't know, 5 minutes long. Okay, we all should have known going into this. When we saw a 43 fucking minute video, we should have known that this was going to be bad.
Trying to create something tangible to show that work was still being done with Telos. I wrote multiple treatments for movies over the next few months, and Nick and I eventually landed on one called Antisocial, a murder mystery about a former social media clique who had gone their separate ways on very bad terms, and they were coming together for a reunion at a sort of VidCon event They were all sharing a house, and then some of them were going to start showing up dead. Around this same time, summer of 2023, Nick had moved to the GTA full time. He and I spent weeks working out exactly how the murder mystery would parse out in the movie. We had a bunch of whiteboards up on my wall, and we were just breaking it down piece by piece. I'd put out a new casting call in the GTA and received hundreds of responses, so I was planning on casting as soon as the script was finished. But after trying to work out the numbers as far as paying actors went, plus locations, food, costumes, as well as the equipment that we'd already purchased and the legal costs of setting up Telos.
None of this matters. None of this matters.
As a business, we realized that we'd gone way too big with this movie. The movie had too many characters and too many locations, and it was just way too complex.
So I get that he's explaining what happened to Telos here, but like all you have to say is that like, yeah, we got too ambitious and we overinvested the money we had, and that's why we got nothing. That's why nothing was produced, because we got way too fucking ambitious. That's it. That is literally it. Again, like, I know I'm repeating myself here, and I kind of feel like a broken record here, but like when you feel the need to over-explain things and give way too many fucking details, you just come off as a fucking liar.
What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude.
Nobody's going to believe you when you feel the need to go into this much fucking... It's one thing if your video, you know, is a response to bullshit allegations. Okay, if you're responding to bullshit allegations and you're defending yourself,
Max
thank you.
Confess 0R donated $4.99.
Thank you.
Oh sheet, oh sheet.
Oh sheet, oh sheet. It's one thing if you are defending yourself against bullshit allegations. Then you'll see a video like this pop up, like a lengthy video, kind of going into the details, explaining, you know, why you're innocent and why you didn't do what you're being accused of, etc. But this video from the start was being framed up as, I'm apologizing for the things I did wrong. So just apologize. We don't need all this shit. Just apologize. And when it comes to specifically to Telos, yeah, we got a little too ambitious and we didn't have enough money to actually produce anything. That's all you got to say.
To be able to pull off with the budget. So I started working on a script for a movie called The Listener, about a true crime podcaster focused on the mysterious deaths of homeless gay men in his city. I was a fair way into the script when we realized it'd be about a year before we could even film anything, since winter was on its way and the story relied heavily on a summer setting. So we went back to the drawing board yet again, finally settling on a modern-day adaptation of The Vampire, based on the book by John Polidori. It's one of the original works of published vampire fiction. It's never received a proper film adaptation and was in public domain.
Wait, so we planned so the story we originally worked on was too ambitious. So we decided to do a different story that was not as ambitious. But because our story was so dependent on a certain time of year, a certain season, instead of retooling that story so that it would work in a different seasonal setting, let's work on a completely different story again? Like, I'm sorry, but to me, like, I understand, like, you're saying you really want to make films and you really want to start this, like, film studio so you can make films, but, like, I'm sorry. It just sounds like you're not cut out to make films. It just seems like you don't have what it takes to do that. What the fuck? By the way, he's about to claim that there are no film adaptations of Vampire. This is a lie. There's like a dozen of them.
Domain, so we thought it would be a great choice. And the cast could be kept down to basically 5 characters, with only 2 of them being on screen most of the time. Nick and I both wrote treatments for it, which we planned on melding together into a final treatment that we would write the script based off of. We'd had a meeting about it, and we were talking about how...
Yeah, exactly. He likes the idea of being a filmmaker, but none of the actual work. He's just not cut out for it.
Best to move forward, how fast we could get...
That's if all this, like, gobbledygook he's telling us is even true.
script written, how long it would take to cast, how soon we could start shooting. We knew that it had been a while since the initial funding of Telos came in, and we wanted to get something concrete out as soon as possible. After the meeting, we went to dinner, and while at dinner, I started getting messages about the H-Bomber Guy video. We were in over our heads once we left the East Coast, but the intention was never, ever, to take the money and run. I was so insanely excited about getting to make Telos a reality. I was excited about getting to make a short film, let alone a feature. It's always been my dream to make movies, so Telos meant, and means, the world to me. For Nick, it was a very exciting project, but not his passion. Nick wanted to write novels. He still does. Nick looked at this as a good creative outlet that was way more fulfilling than writing video essays. I should have stayed where I was and not gone to Ontario. The move uprooted everything that was solid.
This whole video is just excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. That's all this is. That's all I've heard out of this guy's mouth this entire time is some of the dumbest fucking excuses I have ever heard for the criticism he's receiving. I'm sorry, that's not an apology. You know how like you'll often hear people say, you know, an apology isn't sincere if it involves a but. You know, I'm sorry, but, you know, I apologize, but, you know how it doesn't mean anything if you have to throw that but in there? This is just an elongated version of the but, okay? I'm really sorry for all these things I got accused of, but it happened because of this, and it happened because of that, but it happened because of that, and it happened because of that. It's literally just a lot of fucking excuses and not much substance or sincerity.
Solid about Telos, and it took a whole year to get it back.
Not that kind of butt shooken. Jesus.
To even anything close to stable footing. But I am working
There's
with
the
a
but.
producer now. So you can expect an actual product from Telos this year. It will likely be a short film to start off, but there is going to be something coming out of Telos this year. I know I've lost your trust, but I will make nothing financially from this project. The money that is there will go wholly to paying queer artists to work on a queer film. I am not, nor have I ever intended to be, one of the people paid by Telos. Neither was Nick. We made this very clear to everyone who asked. During our work on Telos...
Doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to be a filmmaker if you're not going to profit off of your films? That doesn't... I can understand if you're like, yeah, you know, we want to put out a short film to, you know, pursue investors, and so we're not going to make any profit off of the first film. You know, we'll take you know, we'll cut our losses or whatever on our first film, and then we'll get profit later as we get investors and we can release like actual profitable films. That I understand, but to say that your intention was never to profit on Telos, like, what is the point of being a filmmaker at all if you're not going to profit off of your films? Like, I understand some people do artistic projects just for the love of the art, but like filmmaking is a very long, time-consuming process. You're writing scripts, you're casting people, you're scouting scenes. There's a lot of work that goes into making a film. Why would you ever do all that fucking work with the intention of never turning a profit? It doesn't make sense. Why would you even lie about that? There are certain things that, like, while I think it's bullshit what he's saying here, you can at least understand the logic of why he would say the lie that he's saying, the obvious lies that he said throughout the first 26 minutes of this video. You can at least see in his brain why he would tell that lie, but why the fuck would you tell this lie? We never intended to profit off of Telos ever? Fan films can answer that. But yeah, but he's not trying to make fan films. He's trying to be like an actual legitimate filmmaker. It's one thing if he opened Telos with the intention of making a bunch of fan films. Okay, cool. You want to do a bunch of fan film projects. Okay, whatever. But like, that's not the way Telos has been marketed. So like, why would you go through all that hassle to not make any, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
This is also when the YouTube channel started getting sponsors, which, as I said, as someone who grew up poor, I basically accepted all of them, except for a few that I didn't think lined up with the message of the channel or had some bad news surrounding them. There were a couple that had some anti-trans stuff going on in the news, and I just didn't want to associate with that. But by accepting as many sponsors as we did, which became very important when Nick and I started living apart and suddenly had 2 rents to pay, we ended up
blaming Nick again. Let's subtly blame Nick again. Oh my God. They didn't learn from the okay, the only difference between this apology video and the last one is the lack of waterworks and better lighting. That's it. This is literally the last apology video all over again. Let's just blame Nick for this and blame Nick for that and blame Nick for that. Oh my God.
needing to produce even more videos, which, along with the work on Telos and making sure everything was okay with my dad while living thousands of kilometers away, meant I had even less time for writing, putting more stress on Nick and leading to even more copy pasting from me. That's what led to us putting out, I think, 6 videos in 1 month at one point. It might have been 5, but in any case, it was way too damn many videos to go out in 1 month. We tried to take the summer off from YouTube in 2023 to work on Telos exclusively, but even that went up in smoke because my housing situation just... I won't go into it here. I've talked about it ad nauseum on streams and stuff. You followed me on social media.
Just when you think like he couldn't have any more excuses, another excuse pops up. Well, epilepsy, bad memory, time crunch, too many sponsors, Nick moved out, and now like this one too, like I had to move or what, like, oh my God. So many excuses. Like, I should have done like an excuse counter. Like, I should have had it on the screen somewhere, like in the corner or something. We could just tally up the number of excuses that he makes. We're too far in to start now, but holy shit, there's been so many.
Media, the clusterfuck I ended up in that led to me moving twice in 2 months. In the last couple of months, I've received a lot of emails, as you can imagine. Many from people who were rightfully let down. Some from people threatening everything from doxing to violence because of the internet. Some with the kindest words of support I've ever heard, and others simply asking why I made it so difficult to contact me and if I was okay. They wanted to know why, as they put it, I nuked my social media presence. To be frank, it's because I didn't want to exist anymore. If you watched my honestly horrendous apology video back in December, I tried to make that happen. The not existent.
Here's the thing, right? Is it possible that this is not true and it's an attempt to get like sympathy? It's possible. I don't like to question the legitimacy of someone's mental health issues or, stuff like that. I've been very public about this before, that I've made this mistake before, and I don't want to make that mistake again. So I'm not going to assume that he's not being sincere when he talks about this. I just don't understand why this needs to be discussed in an apology video, whether it's sincere or not that he actually did, attempt to take his own life. I just don't see why you need to include that in an apology video. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to question whether it's true or not, but I don't think it belongs here, you know?
thing. But it was more intense than taking too many pills. It's not that I didn't want to be alive anymore. It's that I wished I'd never existed at all. That everyone I'd ever known would be better off had I just never been there. Very George Bailey, which is fitting given that it was Christmas time. It's only thanks to some very, very dedicated doctors and nurses and one very good friend that I'm even here able to film this right now. I'm not going to name her because I don't want to expose anyone else to the small but seriously unstable group of people who watched the plagiarism in YouTube video and thought, well, he should be dead. Like I said,
This is another thing I don't like when whenever somebody gets criticized for something, valid or not, one of the things they always go to, you've like in all the years that I've been a content creator and I've seen content creators do apologies or responses to criticism, one thing you always hear come up is death threats. And here's the thing, okay? I don't think giving people death threats is okay, obviously. You know, whether you like them or not, or whether the criticism against them is valid or not. Like, I don't condone, approve of, or anything like that, death threats. I don't think that's okay. But I always hate when people resort to this because it's another play for sympathy, basically. Everybody gets death threats. If you're a public figure, you've gotten a death threat at some point in time. I could even vouch and say that I've gotten a few death threats myself for, you know, maybe I got criticized for something and you know, people didn't like what I had to say about something, so I've gotten death threats as a result of it. Or maybe I just gave an opinion that people didn't like, and so I've gotten death threats as a result of it. It's part of the gig. It shouldn't be part of the gig, but it is part of the gig. But again, like when you're bringing that up as part of an apology video, it's literally just another attempt to try and make people feel bad for you. And that should not be your intentions with an apology video. Your intentions with an apology video should be to take accountability for what you did wrong and apologize for it, right? Not to bait any type of sympathy. So I always hate when people bring up death threats, and it's a common go-to whenever somebody's getting criticism is like, well, I got death threats, feel bad for me.
it's a very small group, but when they find out your address, and some of them are actually in your city, they can be terrifying. And they did find my address. And at least a couple of them showed up while I was at the hospital.
Yeah, like doxing and shit like that. It's scary. And when you have people who try to meddle in your personal life and stuff like that, yeah, that shit's scary for sure. But again, like conversations about this stuff don't belong in an apology video. Not to mention the fact that if you have people who are doxing you and showing up to your house, like it's a pretty common practice that creators will tell each other, don't talk about that shit. Because when you acknowledge that shit publicly, you're not only acknowledging to the people that did it that you're aware that it happened or that you're bringing attention to it, but you're also satisfying their need for attention for doing it, and it could potentially provoke them to do it even more. So typically, you know, bad things may happen to a content creator, like they'll get doxxed or they'll get swatted. I mean, obviously, if it happens on a live stream, it's kind of hard for people to not know what happened. But when it's something that like it doesn't happen while you're live streaming or something, like if you get swatted or you get doxxed, or, you know, maybe people send malicious packages to your home or a stalker shows up at your door or something like that, a lot of times these things will happen to a creator and you'll never know what happened because it's common advice given by creators amongst each other. You don't bring attention to it because then it's just going to happen even more. So, yeah.
My neighbors did report them to the police, and I won't go into any more details than that. I'm not sure if I legally even can, but there's a reason I left Ontario within a week of getting the okay to do so from the doctors. So what's next?
Unless you're in the sniper wolf situation, in that case, scream as loud as you can. Yeah, that one was kind of a unique one because it wasn't just, some random person showing up to Jack's Film's house. It was another fucking content creator. That was, I don't think I think the closest thing I've ever heard to something like that happening was when, what's his name? Frank Hassel showed up to Boogie's house. I think that's the closest thing I've ever heard to like a creator showing up to another creator's house uninvited like that. Usually it's some random fucking person showing up to a creator's house.
Then, like I said, you'll notice that a few of my videos are live again on the channel. These ones don't come from plagiarized content, and for the most part are written entirely by Nick. Nick lost 3 years.
That seems like another attempt to throw Nick under the bus. It's almost like, hey guys, if you find any plagiarism in these videos, it wasn't my fault, right? Am I the only one that's kind of getting that vibe from this, or no? Let me get a one in the chat if you agree.
Worth of work when everything on the channel was taken down. And that's simply not fair to Nick. He worked hard writing those videos and deserves to have something to point to when he's looking for new writing work. I've also done some heavy editing on other videos that did contain other people's writing, breaking it down to only original content, again, so that Nick has an actual portfolio of work. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, revenue from these will be going to the H Bomber Guy team to be sent out to the writers I plagiarized from or donated to charity. However it works out in the end. These edited videos will be going back up on the channel.
I wonder if he's had any communication with H Bomber Guy about this yet, or if this is like H Bomber Guy's like first time hearing about this. I did see H Bomber Guy kind of like slyly like hinted that he knew something was going on, or that this video had been released. Basically, I quote tweeted it earlier today. I said he sensed a tremor in the force because not long after this video was released, he simply tweeted, huh. I wonder if he's tweeted anything else because I haven't looked at his Twitter all day since. Let me take a quick look. It looks like that is the only thing he's tweeted since then. He's done a couple of retweets, but they're not related to this particular situation. But yeah, so that was kind of like a very subtle way of H Bomber Guy basically like, yeah, I know about it.
In the next few days, I think, along with 2 completed video essays that we didn't actually get to release before everything happened. There's also some recent videos that didn't have any plagiarism that the sponsor asked to be taken down and their ads removed. So they'll also be going back up without the sponsors, obviously. And
somebody said, isn't Nick a published author or something? I think he'll be fine leaving James' channel off his resume. Yeah, probably. I don't know if he is a published author, though. Does anybody in chat know that for sure? I'm not sure.
Soon I will be releasing a new video written entirely by me, properly cited, with all sources credited. Maybe no one will watch it, but I hope you do. I want to prove that I have the ability to do this without abusing other people's work. It's a very different kind of video than I used to make, though. I'd say it's more of a documentary than a video essay. You won't find my opinions anywhere in there, just cited facts. I'd like to keep making videos like these new ones about people and events in gay history and definitive gay movies that you maybe never heard of. Stuff like that. It's actually something that I planned on doing this year anyway. There would be
I see some people saying that he's self-publishing himself. Gotcha.
videos a month. Nick would write a video essay and I would write one of these documentary style videos that would fulfill the 2 videos per month sponsorship deal that we had at the time. I have no sponsors now, so probably not going to be 2 videos a month. It'll probably just be the one, which will give more time for research and citation and crediting and making sure that there is no misinformation in the videos, which I know that misinformation made its way into our past videos. That was not something that we intended. In some cases, it was information that I was told by people that I considered experts.
The Patreon is linked in the description. Yeah, I did see that they launched a new Patreon, and at the time they only had one patron. I wonder if they have any more patrons now. Let's have a look-see. How could you tell? How do you tell how many they paid? Okay, so they have 14 total members, 6 of which are paid. So when I last saw it, it was 1 paid member. Now they have 6. Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
In other cases, it was information that we had researched. In other cases, it was things that Nick had learned in university. The point being, it was never malicious. We weren't trying to lie about things, despite what a lot of people think. We were not trying to spread misinformation. That was not ever our intention. And that's something else that I want to apologize for. As for my Patreon, everyone can stop worrying about me relaunching it right in time for a billing cycle. That will not be happening. I don't want anyone who either doesn't know about the plagiarism or simply forgot to unsubscribe to get billed. So I'm going to start from 0. I have put together a new Patreon account. So if you want to support my documentaries about gay history, fantastic. Honestly, your faith in me after everything means the world to me. If not, I completely understand. Like I said, I've lost your trust. I'm going to work my ass off to earn it back, though. And I know for some of you, I'll never be able to do
Here's the thing, right? Like, so first of all, I want to preface this by saying I think that there's a lot of bullshit in this video. Okay, I really, truly do think that there's a lot of bullshit in this video. I am all for a redemption arc. Okay, everybody loves a good redemption arc. Okay, if somebody fucks up and they can actually like improve as a person moving forward and doing better, and they can bounce back as a result of that because they legitimately do better, like that's great. You can't build that off of the back of a bunch of excuses and lies and bullshit, though. So it's just not going to work. So I'd be interested to see how things go moving forward for them. I just think that their ability to have like a proper redemption arc, I think they're already off to a bad start because I'm sorry, this video is bad. I would argue that this video in some ways is, believe it or not, in some ways I think this video is actually worse than the last one.
do that, but I'm going to try anyway. You know, there's a link in the description to the Patreon if you want to join it, where you'll be able to see the 2 yet to be released videos right now.
Jeez, we got a little under 10 minutes left of this.
Other
Jeez.
stuff that will be on there, like a book club, podcasts, voting on upcoming videos, all the usual Patreon stuff. But this video is not about promoting myself. This video is
not about promoting myself. I just spent the past few minutes of the video promoting myself, but this video is not about promoting myself. Okay.
me apologizing. And
I don't think the video was about you apologizing either. Because again, like if you're doing like an actual apology video, the video should be like 5 minutes tops, where you take accountability for the things you did, talk about how you're going to make it right and how you're going to do better moving forward, okay? You don't apologize and then spend, nearly 45 minutes just making excuses for why the things happened that happened, okay? That's not what you do in a proper apology video, okay? This is not a good apology video.
incredibly sorry.
Like, not even a ukulele can save this fucking apology video.
It was never my intention for anyone to feel hurt or left out or excluded. It was never my intention to spread misinformation. And I'm really, really sorry that happened. And, as much as I've tried to explain myself in this video, the memory issues, the ADHD, the personal things that were going on in my life with my mom getting sick and then dying and trying to make sure that my dad was okay following that and everything. Those aren't excuses.
Yeah, just lay it on thick, lay it on thick, lay on the sympathy bait real thick, and tell us that the excuses that you just spent the past 30 minutes making weren't actually excuses. Okay.
There is no excuse for what I did. There are lots of people who make videos on YouTube. There are lots of people who make podcasts, TV shows, movies, documentaries, who have shit going on in their lives that's very stressful. And they don't plagiarize people's work. There is no excuse for what I did. For everything.
There's no excuse for what I did. But again, I just spent the past 30 minutes giving you excuses.
That happened, whether it be with my mom.
Does this dude, like, does he listen to the things that he says? Did he not, like, watch this video before putting it out? Like, I don't understand how you could record this video, edit this video, and watch it back and think, yeah, that's a good response. Like, it's literally worse than the last one.
Or the memory issues. There was something I could have done to mitigate that. There's nothing I could have done about my mom getting cancer. But knowing...
It's like I said, it's basically the previous video with less tears and better lighting.
My patrons, as I did, in hindsight, I'm pretty damn sure that if I had said, guys, I need to step away for a couple of months to deal with this, I don't think a whole lot of people would have fled the Patreon. A part of me thought they would at the time because I catastrophize, but I really don't think that would have happened. Even in the very beginning, when I was like, oh, I got to get as many videos out as possible. If I had said to those people who subscribed to the channel early on, you know, for the next video, I want to make sure that it's fully correct. And I want to make sure that, you know, it's as high quality as it can possibly be. I don't think anyone would have, you know, unsubscribed or not watched the next video because it didn't come out a couple of weeks after the algorithm decided that I was important for some reason. I convinced myself of these things, but I don't think, in hindsight, looking at it, I don't think any of that would have happened. And so there is no excuse for the misinformation, and there is certainly no excuse for the plagiarism. I fucked up bad. I stole people's words and thoughts and opinions.
Honestly, hold on.
Excuse for the plagiarism.
Right here.
And
hold on.
Certainly no excuse for the plagiarism.
Right here. What I'm about to play for you right now would have been a much better response than whatever the fuck this is.
I fucked up bad.
That would have been so much better to just put out a video saying that shit than all of this fucking shit. Am I wrong?
I stole people's words and thoughts and opinions that they worked incredibly hard writing and publishing and finding someone to publish their thoughts and opinions and research, hard research that they had done. And, you know, in some cases I put their names in the opening credits, which I thought was fine, but like I said,
you're just parroting shit you said in the beginning. This isn't about citation. This was never about citation. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I've spoken with some of these people now, and I understand why that was not okay. Because putting someone's name in the opening credits, you know, okay, here's a list of people. Here's, you know, 7 or 8 people who are, even if it was, you know, everyone.
They don't get it.
If it wasn't, you know, taking
chat, they don't fucking get it.
Paragraphs at a time, even if it was just a sentence.
We've literally gone full circle from the start of the video. We're right back where we fucking started. They don't get it.
Or there. Putting their name in the opening credits doesn't tell anyone where their work is in the video. Nobody can say, oh, I really liked that opinion, or wow, that's a really, you know, smart observation. I want to read more from this person. And then, you know,
I've seen some horrible fucking apology videos over the years. As somebody who's been a YouTube content creator since 2006, I've seen a lot of content creators involved in scandals where they had to respond with an apology video. And this one's really high up there in terms of bad apology videos. It's gonna be really hard for someone to beat Toxic Gossip Train, but my God, this one's pretty high up there.
Find something you found interesting, you have to go play detective. And so, yes, just putting their name in the opening credits was wrong. I thought it was cool and, cinematic, but it was wrong. Citations should have been done properly. There should never have been just chunks of text being put into videos.
Absolutely
There were
not.
times like with the Queer History of Hollywood, the videos that I released this past spring. They were based directly on The Celluloid Closet by Vito Russo, the book, not the documentary. I expanded on it quite a bit, but it was based directly on Vito's work, and I credited him in the opening credits. And I thought it was okay to just do that because the book was out of print and Vito had passed away, unfortunately, from HIV.
Oh, so it's okay to steal from someone if they're dead. Oh my God. You know how fucked up that sounds? I stole from a dead guy and I thought it was okay because they're dead.
Hold on. Retard break. I need a retard break. Give me a retard break for like 2 fucking minutes, okay? I can't keep listening to fucking retards.
I feel like I've outpaced him intellectually.
Implications due to HIV and AIDS. And I looked at it more as extending his legacy, making sure that people knew about the work that he did. But I don't think I ever mentioned his name in those videos. He was, like I said, his name's in the opening credits. But I don't think I ever verbally mentioned his name. Someone who I have so much respect for, who's kind of an idol of mine, and I never mentioned his name. It wasn't because I didn't respect him or anything like that. And it also wasn't because I wanted people to think that this was all me. Again, if that was the case, I wouldn't have put his name in the credits. I never wanted people to think that this was all me. So that's actually one of the videos I want to make. I want to make a documentary style video talking about Vito Russo and his life and everything that he accomplished, because he didn't just write The Celluloid Closet.
Remember, this isn't a self-promotion video, but he promoted his Patreon, he promoted his upcoming work, and now he's promoting an upcoming project.
He did a lot more than that. He's someone that people should know about. Obviously, people can research him. There's books about him. But
Thanks for the money, you fucking
it's easier
simp.
to sit down and
Thank you.
With Shyness donated $1.99. What is your top 5 worst apology count?
Top 5 worst apologies. I mean, we definitely got Toxic Gossip Train at number 1. The Dream apology, where he apologized for cheating on speedruns, where he said that he forgot he had mods installed. That one was pretty funny. The Gerard the Completionist one was really shit. Who was that beauty community person? I forget her name, but she was involved in some kind of scandal and she basically cried the whole video, so you couldn't even understand what the fuck she was saying. That one was pretty bad. What would be my number 5? Laura Lee, that's the one I was talking about. My number 5 would be... There was one I had in my head and I've lost it. We'll just go with this one for now, but if I come up with a better one in a little bit, I'll let you know. But yeah. How about Doc's apology? The one where he apologized for cheating on his wife? Is that the one you're talking about? That one's pretty high up there. I don't know if it would be top 5 per se, but it's pretty high up there. Anyway.
Watch a 20 or 30 minute YouTube video than it is to read a book. I would like to make a video about Vito Russo, properly cited and not just, copy pasted from a book. I want to do the work.
Oh yeah, what about the girl who danced half naked in an apology video? Yeah, there was the girl who did like an interpretive dance as part of her apology video, and what makes that one so bad is she was apologizing for sexual assault allegations.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
And she decided to respond with an interpretive dance. I forgot about that one. Holy shit. There's so many. Oh, I know the one I was thinking of. I would put that one on the top 5 though, for sure, because I forgot about that one. But the one I was thinking of was the apology for the CSGO lotto scam, where the guy like brings his dog on and he's like petting his dog, and he did the really stereotypical deep sigh. Like that one's a pretty memorable one too.
Prove, not just to you, but to myself, that I can do
Yeah, T. Martin.
the work. And that's why I've started making these documentaries, working on these. I can't really put into words how sorry I am.
Oh, you know what's another good one? I'm starting to remember so many of them. The infamous, it was the CEO of Channel Awesome during the Change the Channel thing, where like they were responding to all the abuse and the pain and the suffering they caused to all the people who wrote the Change the Channel article. And their response was, I'm sorry you felt that way.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
That was the biggest slap in the face apology ever. I'm sorry you felt that way. God.
I've tried writing like a blog entry to say that I was sorry for about 2 months now. And I can't get across how sorry I am. And I know actions speak way louder than words. And I hope with my actions that I can show you that I am sorry. I'm sorry to everyone I plagiarized. I'm sorry to...
Slap sounds more like a spit. Yeah, it kind of is, huh? A spit in the face. B1 Tipster rages over the 1,000th life taken in DK crowd control. I'm sorry you felt that way. Oh my God, true.
Everyone I've hurt. I'm sorry to people who feel lied to. I'm sorry to people who feel like I abused the queer community. It was never my intention. Again, I'm sorry to Jesse. There were actually several other YouTubers who...
The Logan Paul apology. I'll say this, okay. I know a lot of people shit on Logan Paul for his apology for the Suicide Forest thing. I will say the half-assed, like, iPhone notes apology that he initially put out was pretty shit. But when he actually put out his video apology, I would go as far as to say that's one of the better YouTuber apologies. He didn't make any excuses for what he did. He just owned up to it. There's like, I know a lot of people meme on the I made a serious lapse in judgment line, but like honestly, if you actually go back and watch that video, he took full accountability for what he did. He didn't make any excuses and he apologized. So yes, the initial notes apology that he posted on Twitter was shit, but that video apology, like if anybody ever wanted to see like the standard for how to do an apology right, that's how you do an apology right. No fucking excuses, no bullshit, no over explaining the rationality for what you were trying to do, any of that. It's just, I fucked up and I'm sorry. Like, that was a good apology. Not the notes one, but the video one.
were very nice to me. But I feel like with everything that went down, Jesse is the one that I should apologize to the most. I'm sorry for the people who felt scammed, who thought that Telos was a grift. It was not. It is not. I am very sorry. And I hope, given time, and my actions proving it, that you can believe me.
Okay, so yeah, that was a terrible apology. I am hesitant to even call it an apology, to say the least. We got the likes and dislikes disabled, so even if you got the plugin installed, you still can't see them. Yeah, and I kind of like took a peek at the comments earlier. Like, he's just getting reamed in the comment section. I would not be surprised if within the next 24 hours this video gets deleted. I actually downloaded a copy in case it got deleted during my coverage. But like, yeah, this is bad. This was not a good apology. It just seemed like I don't know, maybe a few minutes of apologizing, and then the rest of it was just excuse after excuse after excuse with a dash of self-promotion at the end. Like, holy shit. The last one that he filmed on like a phone while he was like sniveling through tears was so much better than this. And that's not saying much because that one was fucking terrible too. God damn.
Play that shit!